from somewhere deep out there in OSHA Region 1. This is Jim Poesl of Safety Wars. This is Safety Wars for Thursday, August 26, 2026. Anyway, really interesting day today. We're going to be talking about Simple Sabotage, a book that was written during World War II to aid the resistance to the aid in the resistance in the Nazis and everything in World War II, the Axis powers, and how simple sabotage, where you could sabotage people, not your sabotage companies. Now, the reality here is this, and it's a humor. Some of this is humorous. It's been a while since we went over it. Something like almost 6 months. But, we use humor here to make a point that there may be people sabotaging you and your safety program, and this is one way we could do. We'll talk about some OSHA news. And what else? That's basically it. So we're going to be talking about some violations, some criminal activity, some other stuff. Everyone's innocent until proven guilty. A lot of the stuff we talk about where the citations and fines are often vacated, rescinded, settled, what have you. There's all different types of resolutions. We're just reading a lot of this stuff from publicly available information. We try to stick to government websites here. And, right, and that's basically it. I tell you what we're going to do. I forgot to pull it up. It is, let's do FSN Radio News, since we talked about it here. Okay, so here we are with our folks, the professional broadcasters.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. Tech giant Meta has agreed to pay as much as $18 billion to settle a landmark child safety lawsuit brought by 29 US states, in a deal that would impose sweeping new restrictions on how teenagers use Facebook and Instagram. As part of the agreement, Meta has publicly called on YouTube and TikTok to adopt similar protections and join the deal. Ira Spitzer has the story from San Francisco.
There will certainly be a lot of pressure on everyone in the industry now that Meta has taken these steps. And it should be noted, of course, that Meta took these steps under tremendous duress with this avalanche of lawsuits, including the major one, which they just settled with 49 U.S. states and other territories. So this is really a capitulation under duress by Meta, but now they are positioning themselves with the settlement to be more of a leader in the industry now with regards to teen and children safety.
Canada's announced retaliatory tariffs on hundreds of American products, matching US duties dollar for dollar, after trade talks between the neighbouring countries collapsed. The US imposed 50% tariffs on roughly $20 billion worth of Canadian goods. Ottawa says it's deliberately targeting goods from states where voters backed the president. From Washington, Jagruti Dave reports.
You look at the targeting of seafood, lobster, produced in Maine. A significant amount of that goes to Canada. Michigan, the dairy industry is there. Melanie Joly, the industry minister, has said clearly that some of the items that Canada has chosen to target are in states where voters have supported the president and clearly trying to put pressure on Republicans in the upcoming midterm elections.
Prince Harry, Meghan and their 2 children have landed in Britain, completing their move back from California after 6 years away. The family touched down at Birmingham Airport on a private charter jet, and they were met by their own security detail, not police protection funded by the state. The couple say they're returning as private citizens and will not take on official royal duties, though King Charles has said he welcomes the chance to see more of his grandchildren. Ollie Barrett reports from London.
One of the ways in which this was surprising to the British people was the rapidity with which it was all announced. And we're told that King Charles was only informed a few days ahead of the Sussexes' imminent return to the UK. Archie and Lilibet, we understand, will attend a British school as soon as next week. That seems to be part of the reasoning behind their return to the UK. But as far as we know, Harry and William are still not speaking.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, huge questions continue to be posed about Operation Economic Outcast, the Trump administration's new sanctions on Iran that it says amount to an economic D-Day against the country. They come months after President Donald Trump publicly declared not only the Iranian military obliterated, but the country's economy on its knees. And yet, 6 months into an unresolved war, he is suddenly returning to a maximum pressure campaign against the Iranian economy. Negar Mortazavi is an Iranian-American journalist and hosts the Iran podcast.
That whole sort of announcement of a D-Day, which is very much reference to a big global war, that, following a war, an actual war that has been launched and has failed to achieve any of its stated goals, it just does really seem like the nothing burger is a good description. I mean, is this going to put more economic pressure on Iran? Possibly. And who will pay the price for that? Ordinary Iranians. But will this bring the sort of surrender or capitulation, any policy change in Iran? I don't think so. As U.S. sanctions over the decades have not done that.
Unveiling the sanctions package on Monday, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent made no mention of China, Iran's largest trading partner. It would need to cooperate or itself be sanctioned for the new American initiative to have any impact. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
Our main news again. Tech giant Meta has agreed to pay as much as $18 billion to settle a landmark child safety lawsuit. Canada's announced retaliatory tariffs on hundreds of American products after trade talks between the countries collapsed. And Prince Harry, Meghan and their 2 children have landed in Britain, completing their move back from California after 6 years away. That's the latest feature story news. Kate Fisher reporting.
Thank you very much, Kate Fisher there. So, let me get back here to our regular camera. Now, this whole Meta thing, I tell you what, it's I find it very, very interesting here with that. The fact that they did not go to trial and settle out of court says something, right? What would that trial have said? What would it have pointed out? What would have happened? I think we got a lot of the evidence, at least arguments out. I don't want to say evidence, that probably is the incorrect word. A lot of the information out. So basically, mental health issues. I mean, how many people, forget about children, look at adults, the mental health issues that come about because of social media. It's almost like, what can I say, high school gossip all over again here. What used to be talked about in the girls' rooms and boys' rooms or locker rooms, now, right, it's electronic and it's quicker and everything. And this is sadly not a new problem. I mean, this has been going on since the advent of cell phones and social media here with text messages. Also, before that, we used to get faxes out there where you would get on a fax distribution list and then things would go bonkers. Yeah, you'd actually have thermal paper coming out and, well, I'm getting a fax. And, it's some kind of meme, what we would call a meme today, then cartoon. But what's my point here is that there is, a lot of allegations here. And according to this report on CNBC.com, allegations that the social media giant misrepresented the extent of child mental health issues related to their platform. Again, we are being manipulated and we are being easily programmed here. And I do mean by the word programmed with this. Those changes include daily usage limits that they're going to do on Meta for teenagers. Well, no, and they'll be promptly gotten around because there's no verification here. We're going to verify this. Okay, so you get your older brother or older sister's ID, or maybe a parent's ID, and now all of a sudden you can set up an account. I'm not saying anything that nobody who's thought about this for 30 seconds hasn't been able to figure out. I'm sure there are other things. So What's this going to do? Well, we're going to put up more security. Does that mean we are going to have to reduce biometrics? Retinal scans? Anything else in there? Expand the surveillance state a little bit? I don't know. How they're going to do this. So let's see. Any other major stories here? There was one. So this was in Florida. Florida police used a fake flock camera in a sting, then charged a man with 3 felonies for destroying it. The mayor said she was unaware of the operation and admitted the charges are controversial. I know, you're destroying something that's fake. I don't know. With that, News 611 reports that police in Oviedo, Florida, have charged a man with 3 felonies for destroying a flock surveillance camera, even though the camera was fake. Even the mayor, who was unaware of the decoy operation before the arrest, admitted the charges are controversial. And the person faces multiple counts. So criminal mischief causing more than $1,000 in damage. Grand theft involving property value between $750 and $5,000. Damaging or taking computer, electronic device related equipment. However, although Meyer believed he was destroying a real flock camera, she estimated might cost $5,000 to install. What he was actually destroyed was a 3D printed decoy that was likely far cheaper. And with that, I don't know. We talked about this last week because I think that people are not getting this. I mean, literally not getting this. There's a lack of understanding. So the police don't seem to understand, the law enforcement or the government, who, however we want to define that, do not want to have a hard time accepting that people have a problem being surveilled all the time. I had suggested correctly, as I'll point out, that of course, I gotta edit that out here. I pre-recorded this, so I get the good lighting here in the park. Beautiful lighting. But anyway, there seems to be let me back up here. There seems to be a disconnect. Right? The police should understand. No, my suggestion last week was maybe we should make all of the flock data public. That way we could watch everybody, including the police and government officials. And people were like, well, I'm making that suggestion jokingly, because maybe if it's not good for them, maybe they can understand why it's not good for the public. Here's some understanding, some context, and maybe if we have an understanding of everyone's ideas, that perhaps we could come to a reasonable and logical conclusion with some safeguards here. I don't know. Not that hard, folks. Not that hard to figure this out here with this. And the other thing is, maybe we have these things not all over the place, like in certain areas, like in Great Britain, what's been reported, or we have them at intersections. That would be nice there. But as we know, that there is a program out there that connects all of the intersections as far as, what the cars are, where they're going. Well, they pass this intersection this time, that intersection that time, and we're able to determine exactly where you are, what you were doing. Again, removing the human being out of the process, that is very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Seductive. Well, we're going to remove the human being out of the process, and then you get this. How many times do we try to do that in the safety industry? And it's happening right now with AI. We're going to remove the human being from the observations. Where we're going to use AI, and we're going to let that computer make the decisions, because again, HR feels, and they're probably correct, that a lot of liability is removed from them. Safety feels a lot of reliability is removed, because look, the computer said to do this, and this is the algorithm this is what I was told to do. With that, and getting away from the human touch on any of this stuff, bad idea. Bad idea. At least in my opinion. Okay, so we're going to talk about OSHA and EPA stuff here. So let's get to it. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. I'm doing share screen here. I don't know what this is. Yeah, that's the story there. Social media. With that, okay, the Hill. Now, okay. And RFK responds to Shapiro over measles-related deaths. And this is from the Hill. Story by Joseph Choi, I believe his name. Released today. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy shot back at Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro on social media after the governor blamed him and the Trump administration for playing a part in the measles outbreaks that led to 2 deaths in his state. Pennsylvania on Tuesday confirmed 2 deaths in unvaccinated people after they contracted measles, the first such deaths reported last year. In a press release, Shapiro blamed the Trump administration for spreading misinformation that led to declining vaccination rates. Now, maybe people feeling that they're not being told the whole story on the COVID led to that, you know? We're still dealing with the fallout here of COVID in the safety management industry because we were tasked by a lot of organizations to enforce rules, and the people who made the rules had no accountability, whether it was at the government level or at your company level. And this is an outgrowing of that, my opinion, not based on anything that Robert F. Kennedy was there. And let's face it, there are a lot of people who were against vaccinations then, who are then, or are also now more so. This gave them the opportunity, this gave them cover for this. There's real-life consequences to scaring people, not relying on actual doctors and actual medical professionals. I can't disagree with Governor Shapiro here. To provide unbiased information to parents so that we can, make right decisions here. So Kennedy wrote back, during our phone conversation, Shapiro accused me of promoting vaccine information. When I asked him for an example, he was unable to provide one. This is like now a strategy, a script. Someone accuses you of something, give me an example. Let's see if they have examples, and then you accuse them, well, you're taking things out of context. That's the other thing. Human organizational performance, you're supposed to talk about context with things. My question is always, well, what are you leaving out? As I told him, HHS does not tolerate misinformation by an employee. I offered to point him to hundreds of instances of vaccine misinformation by the Biden administration, about which I had never heard him complain about, said Kennedy. Shapiro responded to Kennedy's post, claiming that the secretary went on a tirade when asked to help encourage people to get vaccinated and stop spreading information. He even told me, according to Shapiro, it would be better if we went back to natural measles. Secretary Kennedy, meaning group immunity. So back in the day, before they had chickenpox or measles vaccinations, parents used to put children into, and mumps was the other one, into the same room. My mother did this with me when all 3 of my brothers all had chickenpox. Oh, let's put him in because we're going to go this. We're going to have this go through. Sure enough, I never caught the chickenpox. What do you know? There. But then I took the chickenpox vaccination, and guess what? Sure, right, I ended up having an adverse reaction, I believe, with it. Just a few years ago, Secretary Kennedy was in Lancaster downplaying the severity of measles and saying that the cure was chicken soup and vitamin A. When asked about last Wednesday about the deaths in Pennsylvania, Kennedy questioned the veracity of the deaths. The coroner said this week that no measles deaths were handled by our office. Now, let's see, right? So Kennedy repeated his claim that COVID-19 lockdowns are blamed for the drop in vaccination records. Our advice is that people should get the measles vaccination. On social media, the secretary repeated the claim that the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccination, which now have been divided, right? That's the latest thing. What's been reported. contained fetal tissue, pointing to previous testimony from Stanley Plotkin, the developer of the rubella vaccine. As organizations like American Academy of Pediatrics have clarified, vaccines do not contain fetal cells. Some vaccines are developed by growing viruses in a cell line derived from 2 aborted fetuses from the 1960s. As these lines are ongoing and no more aborted fetuses are required for vaccination. Purification process removes fetal tissue from the final product. So essentially, what are they talking about here? Fetal tissue, just like cancer and cancer research, all comes from 2 sources. From the aborted fetuses in the 1960s. And they test drugs using these things. And now, during COVID, let's remember, way back during COVID, this was one of the arguments against some of these vaccinations and treatments and everything else. And one, I believe it was Kansas, one hospital said, well, if you're against using aborted fetuses from these 2 cell lines from the 1960s, then you should, and you're against them being in vaccinations. They listed like 50 medications where they use the testing methods with the fetal cells. So it's ubiquitous. I know the Catholic Church was against allowing this way back in the early 2000s because now a lot of stuff is already tested, used in the development of a lot of medications here. So let's look at the truth here on measles. So here we have measles cases and outbreaks. Let me check on time here. So as of last week, there are 2,777 confirmed measles cases, right, in the United States in 2026. And then let me share the screen here. All right. Basically, they list all 47 jurisdictions here. All right, and 16 measles cases are reported among international visitors in the United States. There have been 36 new outbreaks in 2026. And now, this is the whole thing. For the full year of 2025, a total of 2,289 confirmed measles cases were reported in the United States. Now, it's just August, and we are up to by the end of September, this might be 3,000 if this keeps up. So my question is this. Is there an incentive or disincentive to reporting measles cases? Number one would be the first question I ask on this. Now you're going to say, well, Jim, why would you be asking that question? Well, is the data we have accurate to begin with from 2025? Number one. Were there barriers in there? Are there no barriers now? Are they being evaluated the same? All of that has to be put into context, what we're dealing with. You just don't, this is how you fight, this is how you fight against being manipulated. Here, you have to ask these questions. What changed in 2025 to 2026 as far as the reporting? Because we do know if it gets measured, it gets manipulated. Are we comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges? Number one, I suspect we are. But the question has to be asked. The second thing is, why are the actual vaccination rates, along with any boosters, I forget whether measles has a booster or not, are there actually lower vaccination rates? That's a question. Number three, do we have people acting irresponsibly? So before COVID, in Rockland County where I live, they had not where I am now, but in Rockland County where I live, they had a situation where we had somebody get measles and then decided to go into a department store and give other people measles. Do we have a typhoid Mary situation here? You're going to say, well, Jim, that's nuts. Well, Is it nuts? Is it really nuts? With the way people are acting nowadays? Well, hey, herd immunity. We're going to do herd immunity. And they take it upon themselves to go out there and do herd immunity themselves. I don't know. It's a question. I'm not making a statement. I'm asking a question here. And this is the actual data. It would have been nice had the Hill report included some of this information here with this. Now, onward to the Department of Labor. U.S. Department of Labor cites a Pennsylvania brick manufacturer for willfully exposing workers to silica hazards and proposes almost $500,000 in fines. This is from Watsontown, PA. U.S. Department of Labor has cited a brick manufacturer with 3 willful and 4 serious violations for knowingly exposing its workers to unsafe levels of respirable silica dust at its Watsontown plant. This is all from on February 12th. Investigators found with OSHA inspected General Shale Brick Incorporated. Again, everyone's innocent until proven guilty. This stuff may be rescinded and negotiated downward. Doing business at Wattstown Brick Company, part of the agency's site-specific targeting inspection plan and national emphasis program on silica, as well as a review of the company's injury and illness records. So they had a reason for going there. OSHA found that workers in Plant 3 where molded brick is made breathed in silica dust above safe limits. The company knew about the exposure but failed to fix the problem. My question is, how did they know that? Did they have exposure data? Did they have monitoring data related to this? I mean, that's a valid question. Did they have monitoring data with this? Did OSHA go out there and monitor it? Was it such an obvious thing? Did the company say, was there a letter? And I have companies who do this. I know of companies who have done this. Well, we're not going to do an assessment because it's going to show we're high, so guess what? We're not going to do it. Nice, hopefully you're nice employers out there, right? And OSHA determined the company failed to test workers' respiratory fit test each year and did not establish regulated areas where employees are exposed to silica, did not check silica exposures for silica-involved jobs, and did not provide required medical exams for workers exposed to silica for more than 30 days a year. A past violation of missing respirator fit tests at the company's Augusta, Georgia site led to a repeat violation. So this is another situation here where if you have the same business at multiple business units, you got to communicate. You have to, like we were talking about yesterday, right? You have to have the disadvantage of firing all your older employees is that you lose institutional knowledge. You lose communication. There's no training. That we were talking about restaurants here, but here we have a manufacturing facility that might have, I don't know, I'm not familiar with what's going on there. I'm going off of the press release, but that often is what happens. Well, we're going to quarantine information. We're not going to let Augusta, it's not going to let this company in Pennsylvania know what's going on, and they don't go out there and they'll communicate, then they get whacked with a willful violation. So it's 3 willful, 4 serious, 1 repeat, and 1 other than serious violation, with a proposed penalty of $500,000, almost $500,000. With that, I mean, I really don't get it. I don't get it. This stuff is so easy to manage, that they don't manage it. Here, so Trump administration issues guidance on health contingent wellness programs, including tobacco cessation programs. So the Employee Benefits Security Administration, along with the Departments of Health and Human Services and Treasury, issued guidance related to questions raised in dozens of class action lawsuits challenging the tobacco surcharges some employers add to premiums for their group health plans through workplace wellness. So the Health Insurance Portability Accountability Act of 1996 and Obamacare allowed employers to reward employees for healthy habits through a wellness program, Wellness programs can cover things like nutrition, weight loss, tobacco, and several other things. The facts released today announced the department's approach to enforcement for health contingent wellness programs, which are programs that reward an employee if they satisfy a standard related to a health factor. Until further guidance or regulations are issued, the departments will not take enforcement action against plans or issuers that do not give employees the wellness program reward retroactively to the beginning of the plan year after the employee completes a reasonable alternative standard. Under the terms of enforcement relief in these facts, plans and issuers only need to provide the reward prospectively from the point where the employee completes the alternative standard if retroactive rewards are not otherwise provided. The experimental nature, and this is from Assistant Secretary Daniel Aronowitz, the experimental nature of wellness programs enables them to drive significant and clinically meaningful health maintenance and improvements. This guidance makes it clear that to sponsors and issuers that as long as they are offering reasonably designated and otherwise non-discriminatory wellness programs, they will not be penalized for wanting to help motivate people they cover to make efforts to improve their health with that. So, there's a public health reason why we do this. However, sometimes I just have to say, do we really need to be involved in this? Should companies do it? Yeah, but why does government always have to be involved in every aspect here with this? I don't know. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. We're going to head right on over to our feature today, which is the Simple Sabotage Field Manual here. And this was declassified in the early mid-2000s here. And this was from, so a little bit of background here. This document was produced during World War II to fight the Germans and fight the Axis powers there. So here we're just going to read it here, right? The purpose of this paper is to characterize simple sabotage, to outline its possible effects, and to present suggestion for inciting and executing it. So rather than a direct attack, right, they were encouraging things like this called a coup de main attack, right, which, it's individual citizen saboteur can perform. And I see this in the workplace all the time, some of this stuff here. Right, so where destruction is involved, the weapons of the citizen saboteur are salt, nails, candles, pebbles, thread, many common items here. A second type of sabotage requires no destructive tools whatsoever and produces physical damage, if any, by highly indirect means. It is based on universal opportunities to make faulty decisions, to adopt a non-cooperative attitude, and to induce others to follow suit. Does that happen at your job? Does it? Where we put people, where people make faulty decisions, and again, did it ever happen with what we were talking about recently, where people make decisions and are not accountable for them? Right? A non-cooperative attitude may involve nothing more than creating an unpleasant situation among one's fellow workers, engaging in bickerings, or displaying surliness or stupidity. This activity, sometimes referred to as the human element, sometimes is frequently responsible for accidents, delays, and general obstruction, even under normal conditions. A potential saboteur should discover what types of faulty decisions and cooperation are normally found in this kind of work, and should then devise the sabotage so to enlarge the margin for error. So, and it goes on here. I recommend downloading this. Boom. And again, then opportunities to help things, right? And the ordinary citizen very probably has no immediate personal motive for committing simple sabotage. Instead, he must be made to anticipate indirect personal gain, such as might become from enemy evacuation or destruction of the ruling government group. Gain should be stated as specifically as possible to the area addressed going on. So it goes on and on. I won't read this 36 pages. Right? On this. So, how do we do this? Right? Among the potential citizen saboteurs who engage in physical destruction, two extreme types may be distinguished. On the other hand, there is the man who is not technically trained and employed. This man needs specific suggestions as to what he can do. And it goes on, right? Safety measures. The amount of activity carried on by the saboteur will be governed not only by the number of opportunity he sees, but also by the amount of danger he feels. Bad news travels fast, and simple sabotage will be discouraged if too many saboteurs are arrested. It should not be difficult to prepare leaflets and other material going on and on and on. And the citizen saboteur cannot be closely controlled, nor is it reasonable to expect that simple sabotage can be precisely concentrated on specific types of target according to the requirements of a concrete military situation. Right? So, under general conditions here, simple sabotage is more than malicious mischief, and it should always consist of acts whose results will be detrimental to the materials and manpower of the enemy. Use everyday equipment. The saboteur should never attack targets beyond his capacity. Right? The saboteur should try to damage all the objects and materials known to be in use by the enemy or to be destined for early use by the enemy. Prior to, right, and it tells you what you could do here. Specific suggestions. This is what you were waiting for. By the way, just as a historical perspective, one of the things was that they made short dipsticks for engines, so they would run out of oil, right, and cause damage. It will not be, right, buildings, warehouses, barracks, offices, hotels, etc. are outstanding targets. So what do we have? They are extremely susceptible to damage, especially by fire. They offer opportunities to such untrained people as janitors, chairwomen, carwomen, I don't know what that is, or charwomen, and casual visitors. And when damaged, they present a relatively large handicap to the enemy. Fires can be started wherever there is an accumulation of inflammable material. Okay, so in your organization, here's one for you. I'm not saying people are sabotaging you. Are people resolving fire hazards? Right? Are they opportunities, especially with the rise of communist and socialist groups in the United States, as well as other ones? This is well documented here at this point in history. Here with current events. Right? So whenever possible, arrange to have the fire start after you've gone away. Right? And it gives you other ways. How do we start a fire? Right? Here we go. In basements where waste is kept, janitors should accumulate oily and greasy waste. Wasn't this like on the Bonham Richard a couple years ago? Improper storage of waste leading to a fire was one of the factors, they think. Right? A clean factory is not susceptible to fire, but a dirty one is. Is your work area clean? Right? Water and miscellaneous. Ruin warehouse stock by setting an automatic sprinkler system to work. You can do this by tapping the sprinkler head sharply with a hammer or by holding a match under them. Forget to provide, here's another one. Forget to provide paper and toilets. Put tightly rolled paper, hair, and other obstructions, right, to saturate cleaning areas. Right? And then it gives you things, right? Place I'm not going to mention that. Place a coin beneath a bulb in a public building during the daytime so that fuses will blow out when lights are turned on at night. Jam paper bits and hairpins and anything else that will fit into locks of all unguarded entrances to public buildings. Here we have industrial production. How do we sabotage that? Let cutting tools grow dull. Leave saws slightly twisted. Using a very rapid stroke will wear out a file before its time. Clean, right? Basically, poor equipment maintenance. Right? No lubrication of the equipment. For cooling systems, right? What are we talking about? Leaks in the cooling system of anything, adding things to it, contaminating it, right? For gasoline and oil fuel, right? On that, contaminating the fuel. Multiple different ways of that. We do this on share. With that, for electric motors, right? So you're all different types of ways they get targeted with electric motors. Transformers, I know all different ways of sabotaging them. I don't want to give people too many ideas. But most of this stuff, what's my point? Most of this stuff is readily available to everyone. Here. All this stuff. Here. Here we have one for mining and mineral extraction. With that. Sabotaging your tools. All different ways of sabotaging the tools. For agriculture. I mean, I unfortunately, because of one of my projects, I found ways where you can really screw with food supply and with livestock. With that. Feed crops, right? Food crops to livestock. Let crops harvest too early or too late. Spoil stores of grain, fruit, and vegetables by soaking them in water so that they will rot. Spoil fruit and vegetables by leaving them in the sun. All different types of ways to sabotage railways with that. Now, this is a good one. Make train travel as inconvenient as possible. Make mistakes in issuing train tickets, leaving portions of the journey uncovered by the ticket book. Issue 2 tickets for the same seat on the train so that an interesting argument will result. And trains bound for an enemy destinations intended to make life as uncomfortable as possible. See that the food is especially bad. Take up tickets after midnight. Call all station stops very loudly. Ooh. Now, in the United States, we would just say, get on that loudspeaker and make it as make it so no one can understand you. Would be that way. Well, engineers should see that trains run slow. See that the luggage of enemy personnel is mislabeled or unloaded at the wrong stations. Simple sabotage. Here. And some of the things don't apply anymore. For automotive, don't maintain the roads. With that, when the enemy asks for directions, give them the wrong directions. Damaged roads, distribute broken glass, nails, and sharp rocks on roads and punctured tires. For passengers, a bus driver can go past the stop where the enemy wants to get off. Taxi drivers can waste the enemy's time and make extra money by driving the longest possible route to the destination. And it goes on and on and on. Now, all different types of ways to sabotage people here. They even have it telegraph and everything. Now, you're going to say, well, Jim, why is this relevant? Why is any of this stuff? We have had documented multiple times of how people are screwing with the water supply with cyber attacks. Some foreign agent, most likely. How about over Metcalf Road in southern San Jose, California, where we had a transformer taken out, I believe it was in 2010, by a .50 caliber bullet. Again, sabotage. In your workplace, are there opportunities for sabotage? Are there people actually sabotaging? That's a question to ask. It's not a paranoid question to ask, especially with the way politics is being played in this country today, with foreign actors coming into the country who are not being vetted. All of this stuff. What's going on? I don't want to sound paranoid, but here it is. Now, most of this is for the workplace. A lot of what we discussed. My question is this: are you actually screening your employees, your new hires? Are you doing background checks? Are you interviewing? Is there nepotism involved? Are they actually qualified to do the job? Are they trainable? All this stuff, when I see a major accident often, or a major situation in one of the workplaces I go to, these are often the places where people foul up. They don't vet people. They don't screen people. They don't do a whole lot of stuff. They just hire people, put them in, and whatever their background is, and we're not talking illegal discrimination here, obviously, but certain things you could do. With that, I know several organizations I work with, I've had to go through multiple background checks. With that. Now, as far as outside of work, in your community, are there people doing this stuff here? Any of this stuff? Now, here we have one. Here. General interference with organizations and production. Now, this is how a lot of people sabotage things with safety here with this. Insists on doing everything through channels. Never permit shortcuts to be taken in order to expedite decisions. Make speeches. Talk as frequently as possible and at great length. Illustrate your points by long anecdotes and accounts of personal experiences. Never hesitate to make appropriate patriotic comments. When possible, refer all matters to committees for further study and consideration. Attempt to make the committees as large as possible, never less than 5. Bring up irrelevant issues as frequently as possible. Haggle over precise wordings of communication minutes and resolutions. Refer back to matters decided upon at the last meeting and attempt to reopen the question of the advisability of that decision. Advocate caution, be reasonable, and urge your fellow conferees to be reasonable and avoid haste which might result in embarrassments or difficulties later on. Be worried about the propriety of any decision. Raise the question of whether such action as is contemplated lies within the jurisdiction of the group or whether it might conflict with the policy of some higher echelon. For managers and supervisors, demand written orders. Misunderstand orders. Ask endless questions or engage in long correspondence about each such orders. Quibble over them when you can. Do everything possible to delay the delivery of orders. Even though parts of an order may already be ready beforehand, don't deliver it until it is completely ready. Don't order new working materials until your current stocks have been virtually exhausted, so that the slightest delay in filling your order will mean a shutdown. Order high-quality materials which are hard to get. If you don't get them, argue about it. Warn that inferior materials will mean inferior work. So that's your 80% rule there, right? And making work assignments, always sign out the unimportant jobs first. See that the important jobs are assigned to inefficient workers of poor machines. Insist on perfect work in relatively unimportant products. Send back for refinishing those which have that least flaw. Approve other defective parts whose flaws are not visible to the naked eye. Make mistakes in routing so that parts and materials will be sent to the wrong place and plant. When training new workers, give incomplete or misleading instructions. To lower morale with it, production must lower morale, and with it production. Be pleasant to inefficient workers, give them undeserved promotions. discriminate against efficient workers, complain unjustly about their work, hold conferences when there is more critical work to be done, multiply paperwork in plausible ways, start duplicate files, multiply the procedures and clearances involved in issuing instructions, paychecks, and so on, see that 3 people have to approve everything where 1 would do. Apply all regulations to the last letter. As far as office workers are concerned, often make mistakes in quantities of material when you are copying orders, confuse similar names, use the wrong address, prolong correspondence with government bureaus, misfile essential documents, and making carbon copies make one too few so that an extra copying job will have to be done. Tell important callers the boss is busy or talking on another telephone. Hold up mail until the next collection. Spread disturbing rumors that sound like inside dope. Does your organization do any of this? I don't know. That's a valid question. Work slowly. Here. Think out ways to increase the number of movements necessary on your job. Use a light hammer instead of a heavy one. Try to make small wrench do when a big one is necessary. Use little force where considerable force is needed, and so on. Contrive as many interruptions in your work as you can. Even if you understand the language, pretend not to understand instructions in a foreign tongue. Pretend that instructions are hard to understand and ask them to have them repeated more than once. Or pretend that you are particularly anxious to do your work and pester the foreman with unnecessary questions. Do your work poorly and blame it on bad tools, machinery, or equipment. Complain about that these things are preventing you from doing your job right. Never pass on your skill and experience to a new or less skillful worker. Snarl up administration in every possible way. Fill out forms illegibly so they will have to be done over. Make mistakes or omit requested information in forms. Misroute materials. Mix good parts with unusable scrap and rejected parts. General devices for lowering morale and creating confusion. Give lengthy and incomprehensible explanations when questioned. Report imaginary spies or danger to the Gestapo or police. Act stupid. Be as irritable and quarrelsome as possible without getting yourself into trouble. Misunderstand all sorts of regulations concerning such matters as rationing, transportation, and traffic regulations. Complain against ersatz materials. In public, treat Axis nationals or quislings coldly. Stop all conversation when Axis nationals or quislings enter a cafe. Cry and sob hysterically at every occasion, especially when confronted by government officials. Oh, yeah. Boycott all movies, entertainments, and concerts, newspapers which are in any way connected with the quizzling authorities, and do not cooperate in salvage schemes. All declassified here. Again, are there people in your organization that do this? Do you unknowingly do this? Are you sabotaging your organization? All this other stuff. So all of this stuff, I give this to you so you have the methods and the means of handling this. So that's all I got here, and I hope to see you tomorrow. For Safety Wars, this is Jim Poesl signing off.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.